What's up, folks, and welcome to the Modern Truths Throwback Thursday. I'm MJ, here with Alex Storm, and we're going to do what we always do on Throwback Thursdays. We're going to talk about an old school movie. So, Alex, what movie are we going to be talking about today?
So this week we watched The Warriors. It came out in 1979. It was directed by Walter Hill, and it's a cult classic. What'd you think of it?
I think The Warriors is pretty awesome. I like it a lot. It's a super weird, super campy, super 70s movie. But it's also pretty interesting, pretty cool. And at the same time, there are definitely a lot of issues with the movie. It's got some problems. But I still really like it a lot. It has a lot of personality.
It does have a lot of personality. I really enjoyed this movie. I liked it when I was younger, and I can see why I like it. It's cool. It's just about a gang trying to get home, getting jumped and fought and like chased by a whole bunch of other gangs, and the whole story is just like their process of getting home. So it's a cool idea in that way. It doesn't have a lot as far as the plot, but it's entertaining the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because, we think so much about current movies and how they have to over-explain everything. This is yet another example, one of these older movies that pretty much thrusts the audience into the action and says, hey guys, figure it out, you can put it together through context clues. There are a whole bunch of really weird gangs in New York, and they're after this gang because they think they killed Cyrus, the guy who wants to unify everyone. And I want to talk about Cyrus off the top because, look, that's where the whole movie almost fell apart for me out the gates, was the idea that this guy was the guy that anyone will be following. He was so goofy. He didn't have a good, powerful voice. He didn't have a big presence to me. It just seemed like, dude, if all the gangs in New York were getting together to follow this dude, to unify under him, then all these gangs are in trouble. But hey, you know what? It's not really far off, considering that most of the gangs look like a member of the YMCA. Oh, I'm sorry, not the YMCA. What's the name of the group? The Village People. Half the gangs could have been Village People. So I guess Cyrus maybe, in that regard, maybe a little more...
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I also feel like it didn't matter because he got killed immediately anyways. So, I mean, yeah, it's silly that he's the leader. But one, I like the reason he was bringing them all together. He was like, there's this many police in the city. There's 60,000 of us. We could take them. We could take over the city. We need to be united, which is an awesome concept that could still carry over to today. Mm-hmm. But to the point about the gangs, even if they look like they could be members of the Village People, I love that you could tell them apart. The beginning sequence where there's all the different gangs coming with their different outfits, their different headbands, their different jackets or vests or patches or costumes. I liked all of it. And even the ones that were dressed silly, the baseball players with their painted faces, when it came down to it and they were attacking the Warriors, they were even intimidating looking, Yeah. But I love that you could tell them apart, and I thought it was so creative how this director came up with all these different, or maybe from the book, came up with all these different ideas for how these gangs could be identified and separated.
Yeah, it's an impressive number of different gangs in this film. The amount of extras in the bid scene where all the gangs come together is just absolutely insane. The fact that they took the time to do costume design and create clothing for all these different people. What I really like about it, it's I wasn't around back in 1979, but from what I hear, New York was a kind of dangerous place back then. Even them shooting on the subways and stuff, I was like, I don't think they added graffiti to the subway. Yeah. I think they really is just how the subway looked back then.
It felt very authentic.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say authentic. But boy, it was this hyper stylized version of New York where it was this perception of New York being a crime-ridden area because it was. But then you have these gangs that, again, can't be taken seriously. The serious version of this movie is a much darker film, and the gangs are indistinguishable basically because they just like actual street gangs. Whereas this has so much flair and it's still so light, but it's still the idea that there's 60,000 gang members in New York sounds kind of insane when you really think about it. It was it sort of treated New York like that's all that is in New York. It's such an insular thing. It's you didn't see, at no point where they're, except for the prom kids, I guess. You don't really ever see them just stumble upon like a normal human being for the most part. So it's pretty interesting. It's just this is all in their world. This is what their world's about. It's about, can you dig that? Can you dig it? Suck up! You know what? Here we go. Some of you may know this. I am a former employee of WWE. I used to like wrestling a lot. Never realized that Booker T got his catchphrase from this movie. Never realized it. But now I've learned something. So there you go, guys. In case you didn't know, and you're a big fan of Booker T, Watch the Warriors. That's where he got his catchphrase from. Go figure. Educational
Interesting.
moment for the day. Okay.
I didn't know that. To your point, the stylization of it reminded me so much of West Side Story. I don't know if it was because of the time frame of it, or like, I don't know, the time frames are different for those two, but maybe it was it being in New York, but I felt like so much of it almost felt like a musical. Like, especially the way like all the members were like moving and it all seemed like so rhythmic, and there was so little dialogue. It was just them like all being very choreographed as they move through the different scenes, all the different gangs. So it reminded me of West Side Story. And then the soundtrack is awesome to this movie. Like the silly like late 70s, early 80s like style of, I don't know, disco
like
music.
disco, I was gonna say, yeah.
It was in it. It was cool. I just kept being really distracted by the music and really liking how it fit with the scenes of them like running, having these like silly synth beats behind it.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of want to jump ahead. Like I really like this movie, but this is one of those rare like old school classic films that the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, man, I think I'd be interested in remaking this. Like some people would be like, oh my God, because they hate every remake. But this is one of those movies I'm like, you know what? And I don't even know what direction to go. If you go dark and gritty with the Warriors, I don't know. But I think even if you did, I think that could work too. Like I think maybe that's why I think this could be remade, because kind of go back to my initial statement earlier in this video. You know, I said the movie has some issues, and one of its issues is that it's not a very well-made film. Like it's the editing is borderline bad. The fight choreography is abysmal, which is not uncommon for the 70s, frankly. I feel like a lot of fight choreography during that time period was bad because essentially there was no choreography. It was like, hey guys, I know you've never punched anyone in your life. Start acting like you're punching people, you know, or whatever. But it looked kind of rough. And I would say that's one of the biggest areas. Because, I mean, first of all, what is this movie? Is it an action movie? Is that what you would categorize it as?
It's categorized as a thriller.
It's a thriller. Okay, well, I was going to say, whatever it's categorized as, I don't think it really succeeded on the action level. But there is something really cool just about this idea of, again, it's a very streamlined story of just these dudes trying to get out of this situation. And what I really like also is, again, you know nothing about them.
Yeah. And you don't ever get to find out anything.
Yeah, you don't.
It doesn't matter where they're from or what they're doing. Like.
Yeah, and it's sort of a lesson in how to, you know, create audience investment too without excessive, you know, exposition. Like guess what? At the beginning, maybe you don't even have a reason to like these guys. They're no different from any of the other gangs, but this is the gang we're following because this is the gang that got framed for killing Cyrus. So that's what the deal is. Like, get with it. You know what I'm saying? And so. And
I like the idea that there is the bad gang. There's the gang that framed them, the gang that actually shot Cyrus. But the Warriors are never made out to be heroes or to be good guys necessarily.
Yeah.
They have one that's a bad guy, and then you also see like some inner conflict. So I don't know. They're just a group of guys you're watching. You don't have to be necessarily, like, you're cheering for them to maybe make it home, but you're also, I don't know, not totally on their team because they're not great guys either.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're still gang members. And maybe that's another area where I feel like the film kind of failed and that they didn't really make them as bad as they should have, perhaps, because, you know, it's like they started the movie off and they're like, oh man, we couldn't bring guns. Like everyone is acting like they're just straight up murderers. Every gang is like, yeah, we totally killed the shit out of people. Like yesterday we killed like 3 people. You know, and if, you know, and my gang ran into your gang, we would totally fuck you up. You know, and there's an implication that all of these gangs, again, they were able to send 9 delegates, which is an odd number that I'm not even going to waste my time trying to get into to figure out what that number is about. It's literally an odd number. But that means all these gangs are bigger than, you know, the amount of people that were there too. So it's like, it's just, I don't know, it's a really weird thing. And it's like, why did that other gang shoot Cyrus? Because I just like to fuck up shit, basically, is what the dude said. I do want to say one more thing. The dude, I don't even know what's the name of the game. Are they the Snips? The Snubs? The all-black militant like gang that was just like
the
black.
Riffs.
The Riffs, there you go.
I think
Close
they're the
enough. There
Riffs.
was something with 2 F's in it.
Yeah.
So the Riffs, like that dude, he should have been Cyrus.
Yeah,
okay, I
I
would have
agree.
totally bought him being Cyrus. Okay, like
He was a lot more badass.
yeah, yeah, but oh well. Fantasy recasting for a movie that's 30-something years old. You know, oh well.
So the diversity in this film, they did an amazing job.
There is diversity in this film.
1979, the first speaking character is a black man. And then all the gangs, you see all different people represented and also mixed.
Yeah.
There's a few gangs that are like only one race each,
Yeah.
but most of them are all pretty mixed, which was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird because the ones that were mixed, I mean, just purely based on the way their costuming was, it made sense. You know, like the bad guys are all white dudes. And the way they dressed in the car they drove, it kind of just made sense that they would all be white dudes, you know? Even the baseball guys, they're all white guys, and yeah, it just kind of makes sense looking at them, you know? And then, like, there was the gang with the fatigues. There were, like, black dudes and white dudes. I think it was Asian dude, you know? And it's, yeah, just different gangs had different racial dynamics. It was really interesting. I mean, I almost want to say this movie was ahead of its time because, I mean, it was just, yeah, I want to go back and see, like, you know, how this movie performed, like when it actually came out, because
I think it did kind of poorly.
Yeah.
Because it was rejected. Like, people saw this movie as inciting violence, and so they, like, the studio, I don't remember what studio put it out, but they ended up sending out a thing before the movie was actually released to all the theaters who would agree to show it, telling them that they were released from their obligation to show the movie because it was inciting violence around the country. So it was a big deal, and it got a lot of negative reviews, and people thought that it was something like the world it portrayed, people felt like was a really threatening, scary world, and something that they didn't want people to latch onto and, like, want to contribute to.
Wow.
And so I think that's one of the main reasons it became a cult classic, is because it had such negative reviews and was, like, seen as such a dangerous film for its time when it came out, that, of course, like, that made people want to see it. And then eventually, like, it was, you know, reviewed really highly, and people realized that this was a classic film. But when it was initially coming out, people did not want this film to come out, and they didn't want to show this film in their towns because they were afraid the youth would go crazy and start their own gangs.
We've come so far. That's all I can say. I was like, if this was the movie that was having people concerned, man, maybe things aren't as bad as we think they are as far as censorship is concerned these days. But that is interesting. And yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I think I want to say one more thing for me, and I don't know what else you have to say about it, but I will say, you know, we talk about this being a classic or cult classic film. Sometimes you have to talk about the outside aspects that define a film's popularity, because I still stand by the idea that this movie is not a very well-made film, and yet I think it is a really good movie. And so, you know, a lot of people get hung up on the details, the cinematography, the acting. Like, a lot of the things in this movie just aren't that good. But the things that are good in this movie are transcendent and are really good, and that's what makes this movie, that is what has made this movie stand the test of time, and what makes it a really good watch. So, you know, I would definitely say, look, because for me, this is my first time watching this movie. I've always actively avoided it because I kind of thought, it just didn't look that good. And anytime I saw 2 seconds of it on TV or something, I was like, that looks stupid. Like, you really need to watch it from beginning to end and just take it in, and hopefully you'll be impressed, because it's definitely a must-see film, I think, if you're a film fan.
Definitely. The one area that they were seriously lacking in, which is somewhat understandable for 1979, was any kind of gender equality. The female character, the one female character who's actually a part of the movie, she's pretty despicable most of the movie. Like, most of the time, the way she's portrayed, the way she conducts herself. Yeah, like everyone else. But I don't know, for whatever reason, like, this didn't bother me about this movie. Maybe it's because it fit for the time that it came out. You wouldn't expect there to be a lot of females in this world that they're portraying. And maybe the females that they would have, except for, there are the female gang. The female gang is pretty badass. Yeah. They're a really small part. And then there's, like, the female who sticks with them the whole time, who is less likable.
And then you have the female cop, too.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I forgot about her.
I mean, really, if you look at the different segments of how women are in the movie, the consistent woman is, not good, but the other women
ones, they
are
at least
all
show some women, they're somewhat
badass
powerful.
and really... basically fuck over the dudes, like, completely, like, unequivocally. Like, there's no, like, there ain't no back and forth.
True. Yeah.
And there's even a shot where a guy just straight up punches one of the women in the face, which is always surprising to me. So.
Yep. I forgot all about the female cop. But overall, I think if this movie was remade, there'd need to be multiple female gangs, or there need to be females mixed in the gangs that actually matter and have some sort of power position.
Yeah. But guess what? You know, as much as I like the idea of them remake this movie, they probably shouldn't. It's awesome, and on its own right. Maybe so much to just make a movie that's kind of like it, but isn't it? You know, maybe that'd be better.
Maybe so.
One last thing, I'm sorry. Any gamers out there, this movie reminded me of the game Manhunt, which is about a dude who has to go around killing a bunch of different crazy-looking gangs. I'm sure it took a lot of inspiration from this, too. And if you are a gamer, you should check out Manhunt 2. It's awesome as well.
There's also a Warriors game.
Which is no good. So don't play that. Play Manhunt instead and watch Warriors. All right, is that it for us?
I think that's it.
All right, that's going to conclude our Throwback Thursday discussion of the Warriors. Again, I am MJ. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheOnlyMJ, and she is...
I'm Alex Storm. You can follow me at AlexStormTMT, as in The Modern Truth.
And themoderntruth.com is where you can find all of our Throwback Thursday videos, movie discussions, and all the news you need to know. Thanks again for tuning in, folks, and take care.